What's up, guys? Ron Harris here. As someone who's been training for over 42 years myself, I know that I am someone who loves training. It's part of who I am. I can't imagine life without training. And if you're watching this channel, a channel called Ron Harris Muscle, you're probably a lot like me, most of you. So let's do a checklist. Let's run down the 6 ways, 6 signs you know you love training, maybe a little bit too much. I know I do. So let's start with number 1. You train when you're injured or sick. Most people, I hate to call them civilians because calling non-bodybuilders or people that aren't serious about training civilians, I don't want to try to say I'm as same as the military or people in the armed forces. We're not, but let's just call them civilians, non-bodybuilders, people that aren't into working out. To them, it's a chore, it's a hassle. They will find every excuse they can possibly find to not train. If they have a little sniffle, they won't go to the gym. If they have any kind of ache or pain, and especially if they have an injury, they will not train. We are a different breed. I will train. Geez, I don't want to say I trained even when I had COVID because that would make me a bad person, but I did. I've had so many injuries. I'm sure a lot of you guys, and I want you to share your stories in the comments. Shoulder injuries, obviously, lower back injuries, no matter what was hurt, quad tear. I always knew there was something I could train. So my first question when one part of me was hurt was, well, what can I do? What can I still do? I never stopped training no matter what happened. Tore my tricep, was training everything else, legs and my other side of the body. Shoulder operation 2011, same thing, was training legs and training the other side of the body till that was ready to train again. This shoulder here, I can't do anything with the left side now, but I'll be back. I've been back in the gym. I think I was only out of the gym for 3 or 4 days after this surgery. And I've been back. Geez, I just did my 3rd day in a row of training. I'm just not training the left side of my body while this shoulder, this new replacement, the implant takes hold into the bone and all that. But I've been to the gym when I'm sick, and I would be Googling and stuff when there was Google. Before that, I don't know what I did. Can I still go to the gym? And they say, well, if the symptoms are above the neck, it's okay. If they're below, like in the lungs, probably shouldn't go to the gym. But still, I would go to the gym almost every time. There have been very few times when I was so sick, maybe a really bad flu. For a few days, I would miss training. But for the most part, I would be in that gym. Not as intense, of course. And I probably should have had my ass back at home resting, because training while you're really sick, it's a stress on your immune system, a further stress. It's interfering with the body's natural healing process. There's a lot of situations where we shouldn't be training, but because we love it so much, you might call us obsessed. I like to think of it as devoted, that we're still in the gym. Number 2, train when you're tired. Again, most people, they didn't get enough sleep or they just feel tired. They'll skip the gym that day. And I want to say that skipping the gym when you're really tired and your body's run down is actually a good idea. Most people, they'll be a little bit tired, regular people, civilians, whatever you want to call them, and they won't go to the gym. Of course, what we do as meatheads, we'll double up on the pre-workout, drink an extra bottle of Bang Energy or Red Bull or whatever your favorite, Monster Energy, whatever your energy drink of choice is, and you'll temporarily have that boost of energy that'll get you through the training, and then you can be tired after that. But I can't remember too many times when I was so tired, maybe if I had been up for 2 days or something, which is a rare occurrence, that I wouldn't go. But I'm sure a lot of you guys have gone to the gym, even when you're exhausted, and probably slammed an extra serving, an extra scoop of pre-workout or something just to get you through it. And, in the end, you probably felt better because you went and trained, even though you probably should have rested. Number 3, this is a meathead move. You train on vacation. When most people are on vacation, obviously they're not working. They're off work for a week or 2, and they're certainly not going to the gym. They say, well, that's work. I don't want to do something that's, feels like work or a chore or a job to me. And to most people, that's what going to the gym is and working out is. It's a necessary evil. It's something they have to do because, they're trying to keep the weight off, or they're trying to lose weight. They want to be healthy and fit, but they don't enjoy it. They don't want to do it. So if there's a reason to avoid it, they will avoid it. We will find out what kind of gym our hotel has if we're going to a hotel. If we're staying at Airbnb or something like that, we'll look up all the local gyms in the area, or we'll post on message boards. We'll post on social media. We'll try to find out what's the best gyms in the area, and we'll make a point of going to those gyms, because that's a lot of times, if we're going to a certain location, wherever it is, I don't know, Paris, Ibiza, whatever, wherever you're going, you want to know what's the greatest gym there where all the bodybuilders go, and you try to hit that gym while you're in town. I've gotten so many messages from people that are coming to Boston, usually for business, and they don't have a lot of time, but they still want to know, what's the best gym? Where should I go? And I tell them, if they're in the city of Boston, Gym Hub. If they want to go a little bit south, Bayshore, there's a few good gyms. But we will take time out of our vacation when we're with our families or our loved ones or whoever, when we could be just kicking back. How much relaxing can you do, I suppose? But we will seek out weights. We will seek out a gym, and we will, if not keep up our regular fitness regimen exactly, we'll still make sure we don't go the whole week or 2 weeks, certainly, without some kind of workout, some kind of weight training. We got to do it. It's part of us. Number 4, training impacts your social life. This is a big one. This is a really big one. Should it impact your social life? If you're getting ready for competition or something, I could see where it would make a lot of sense. It depends on how seriously you take bodybuilding and training and eating and all that. It's really the eating that probably keeps you guys and me from going and doing things like going to an amusement park or something with a bunch of regular people. It might take you an hour or 2 to drive there, hour or 2 to drive back. You're going to be at that park for 8 or 10 hours, maybe. There's food in the park, but for the most part, it's garbage. It's fried. It's fast food type of stuff. It's greasy burgers, fries, chicken tenders, stuff like that. Mostly. Some places do have better food, and most of these theme parks, amusement parks, will not let you bring your own food in. You can't even sneak in like bars or anything. So a lot of us will avoid those. I know when I was prepping for shows, and it bothered me in summertime, because everybody would be going to like Six Flags or something, and I'm like, I can't. I got to stay home. I got to train. Got to hit my cardio. Got to eat. You'll turn down invitations just to go out with friends, or go to the movies, or go to a bar or something like that, or go to the beach, because you're worried about either missing workouts, missing meals, or both. Now, you can bring food to a lot of places. Some places you cannot bring food. So what are you going to do? A real meathead who's obsessed with bodybuilding and building his or her physique, having the best physique possible, you'll probably turn down a lot of things, even family functions. You might not go to birthday parties, things like that, because you'd have to bring your own food, or you can't bring your own food, things like that. You'll let bodybuilding get in the way because it's that important to you, more important to you than spending time with friends, families, going out and having quote unquote a good time, because you would feel bad missing the workout that you're supposed to do that day. And truth be told, an extra day of rest is probably a great thing for most of us. A lot of us train too much. I know there's this new trend that these young science-based lifters talk about, where they're all worried about overtraining. But I think most of us who are not those young science-based kids, we will train ourselves into the ground if we're not careful. All right, next one is, you train when you're too busy to train. What does that mean? So most regular people, if life gets busy, if their work schedule gets to the point where they have to work overtime, or if they're shuttling back and forth, driving kids around, there's all kinds of things that can eat up your time in a day. And it's very, very easy to say, well, I don't have time to go to the gym today. I'm not going to have any time tomorrow. And legitimately, sometimes you really don't. But most of us meatheads will find a way, somehow, some way, to get that workout, whether we have weights at home, or if we're just moving things around in our schedule so that we do get that, 1 or 2 hour window of training time in. We will do it, even when sometimes it doesn't even make sense. Like we're actually putting our job performance at jeopardy. Sometimes it's going to make your schedule way too tight and way too stressful, where you probably should have just skipped the workout that day because there was too much else going on. But it was chest day, bro. It was arm day, bro. It was leg day, bro. We had to do it. Last one is, you train long after the gains stop coming. This, to me, is the sign that you love training more than any of the other reasons, because it's motivating to train. It's easy to stay motivated to train when you're making improvements to your physique. The first few years of your training, that's when everybody makes their most gains. After that, things do slow down. That's just the way it is. It's the human body. Even the biggest guys that have ever lived and the biggest guys that are alive right now, take this Nextzilla guy, for instance. Nextzilla, he's not going to get much bigger than he is. He's about maxed out. And I know he's only 27, but how much more muscle can he put on that frame? I don't care how many drugs he takes. I don't care how hard he trains, how much longer he trains. He's only going to be able to put on a little bit more muscle because everybody has a limit. Even these genetic freaks, Ronnie Coleman, Rubiel Mosquera, the late Nasser Somebody, these guys were enormous. But why don't they look like these AI-generated bodybuilders that we see now that are just, the proportions are ridiculous. We've never seen humans that big because there is a limit to how big muscles can get, even for the people who are the most blessed out of all of us. Now, talking about the regular people like me and you, I don't think there's too many genetic freaks watching right now. We'll get to comments. We'll see if there are any. For most of us, at some point, if you're doing everything right, if you're training hard, you're eating a lot of great food consistently, you're getting plenty of rest, and then you add in the gear and you're taking a substantial amount of gear and insulin, growth hormone, whatever it is you want to throw in there, it's still going to be a point after probably no more than 10 to 15 years, maybe 20 years. I have heard natural guys say they're still gaining, but the gains are so infinitesimal. I don't know how they can even tell. There comes a point where you're not going to get any bigger. You're not going to get any stronger. In fact, it's going to be very, very difficult at some point in your life, if you do this long enough, just to maintain the muscle mass you had. This is especially true if you back off the gear like I did. I don't have as much muscle mass as I did even 2 years ago. The last cycle I did was 2020, early 2023. It's been a couple years, whatever the time is. And injuries and everything. I'm not able to train with the weights I used to use. I'm not as big, but I still love it. I still do it. Whereas a lot of guys and girls, but a lot of people will get discouraged once the gains stop coming, or once they hit a point where they can't even maintain that size anymore for various reasons, or the strength. That's it. They quit because they didn't really love it. They loved what it did for them. They loved the results. They didn't really love the process of training that much. They didn't love training itself. They loved the way it made them look, the way it made them feel, the attention that it got them, the validation, different factors, but they didn't really love training. If you're still training long after all those things are gone, I always say about half these young people on social media, they're posting workout videos every day. If there was no social media, I guarantee you a large percentage of them wouldn't even train. They're doing it strictly for the attention, the validation, the likes, the follows. It's all that positive encouragement and attention that they get that really feeds them. And that's why they train. But if you took all that away, would they still train? I don't know. All right. Now it's time to go to some of your comments. We have some. Let's see. Okay. Your mom's flip-flop over in Deutschland. To a certain extent, I do the same when you first point. I'm super sick or injured where I need to train. Take a day or two to recover. That's actually a smart way to approach it. Like I said, in the title, 6 signs you love training, maybe too much. Some of us love training to the point where we train when we really shouldn't be training. Your body will give you signs. It will let you know what's going on. If you're starting to really feel run down, tired, achy, and you're losing motivation to train, it's not just psychological. That's your body trying to get you to just take a little break, back off. Like I said, I talked about vacation. A lot of you guys have noticed when you do stop training for a week or maybe 2 weeks sometimes when you go on vacation, you come back and, man, you feel amazing in the gym. You feel like a fresh kid again. Your joints feel really good, the connective tissues. Nothing's hurting, and you're just supercharged. You're hitting every workout with ferocity because you missed it. Your body had that break. If you never get that break, I used to try to take a week off every, I think it was 6 weeks, and I think I ended up doing it once, and then after that, I'm like, no, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to go that long. There's no need for it. And there have been many times where I probably should have taken time off, and I just didn't. Not going to the gym when tired is like not going to work tired. You still got to do it even if you don't want to. Yeah, I mean, tired, when I say tired, I mean, if you're exhausted, like bone tired, like you're having trouble keeping your eyes open, you just want to collapse and slump into a recliner or something, you probably shouldn't go to the gym. Your body is generally broken down, whether it's from lack of sleep or over physical exertion, mental stress, who knows what the reasons are. But for the most part, everybody is going to have a little fluctuation in energy. Like late afternoon, a lot of us get sleepy and feel like we could take a nap. But the key is consistency. That's what separates most people who have great physiques from people who just go to the gym or train or whatever. And they're not that dedicated. It's because they're not consistent. There are a lot of people that will train for a couple weeks, stop for a few weeks or months, get into it again for weeks or months, and then get away from it. It's on, off, on, off. It's just not consistent. Whereas the people that have the best physiques and results, obviously genetics are the major determining factor in great physiques, but it's the people who consistently put in the effort with eating, training, and rest every day. They make sure. Those are three sides to the pyramid. It's not just training. You need to keep eating those really good meals every day consistently. You need to get rest, good sleep every night consistently. And you do need to go to the gym consistently. If you're not feeling fantastic, then you just back off on the weights and the volume a little bit. You don't train as long, maybe don't train as heavy, but you're still there. You're still getting the job done. And it's those little bricks, brick by brick, you build the building. How's the shoulder? Thank you. Well, as you can see, I took the sling off. I even started driving yesterday, short distances. I still don't feel good about going on the highway. But it's getting better. I mean, honestly, the worst part was my bicep, because keeping my arm in this position in the sling for 2 weeks, it was 2 weeks I kept it on. The bicep was already starting to feel like it was shortening, and I was having trouble straightening the arm and a lot of pain and a lot of inflammation. That arm was really swollen, full of fluid up until just a couple days ago. Like that hand, I couldn't get my watch on. The hand was puffed up. The forearm was all puffed up. The bicep was like puffy and red. And I was worried that there was some kind of damage in there, but I met with the doctor Wednesday. Today's Thursday. So Tuesday, I'm sorry. I met with the doctor and he said, that's perfectly normal. And, just keep moving it around. And so this is the range of motion my good arm, good shoulder has. This one, I can push it up almost higher now. And it's only 2 weeks yesterday that I had the surgery. So I'll start PT in about a week and a half. And I do anticipate being able to regain. He said 85, 90% range of motion I'll get back. That's the expectation, which that's fantastic to me. So if this is 100% for me, this arm, if I could get that arm straight overhead again, which I haven't been able to do that in like 10 years, I'll be so happy. So it's going to be a long road back, but there's very little pain. It's just a little achiness in there. It's not bad. It's really not bad. So yeah, I'm feeling good. Bringing food to places sucks. Dragging around with you all the time. Yeah, they have the cool coolers now, like those 6-pack bags that are lightweight with the compartments and everything. Long before that, I used to carry the old standard generic Igloo cooler. I don't know. A lot of you guys might know what that is. They usually came in either red and white or blue and white. It's just a cooler, plastic cooler, where the handle part just rotated down, and you just had one big open chamber. And I would pack that with ice and my meals in like Tupperware type containers and things like that. And I would have like a gallon jug of water in the other hand. And God, people used to make fun of me so much, but I would bring that to family events. Like if it was a kid's birthday party, I knew there wasn't going to be a good food there. If it was my side of the family, sometimes there wasn't any food. There'd just be cake. Janet's side of the family, they're Spanish. They never have a party without feeding you. There's always food. But the white side, my side of the family, a lot of the family parties, functions had no food. And I want to make sure I had the right foods. Like, I won't call out, but I went to a baptism one time, a christening. It was a baptism. Sorry. I won't say who it was. It was my side of the family. They were pretty broke at the time, the couple. I was actually the godfather of this child. So they had a little reception in a little function room in the church, part of the church building. And they had pasta with sauce, and they had a couple plates with cheese on it. And there was no meat. They didn't have meatballs. It was just pasta. And I didn't have any food with me. And I was so upset. I think I ate all the cheese that was there because I was like, I got to get some protein. They had cheese and crackers. So I had pasta with the sauce and I had a bunch of cheese. But, bodybuilders, we can't be caught in situations without access to the right foods that we need at the right times. I always say the hardest part of bodybuilding is the eating. Training is fun. I know there are, like I said, regular people, they'll find excuses not to train. They don't find it enjoyable. They don't want to push themselves and feel that pain. We do. We have that no pain, no gain. We embrace the pain because we know we're pushing ourselves. We're challenging the muscle, and we're going to force it into a a zone it's never been to. We're going to get growth. We're going to make the muscles bigger. But most people aren't like that. Anyway, that's why we have to have the food too, though. With the food, the nutritional support is key, because without that, the training you don't have the fuel, the building blocks to recover from the workouts and to synthesize new muscle tissue if you don't have enough quality protein, carbs, healthy fats, calories in general. Kane says, when you start handling another man, it's gone too far. Well, what's handling? I don't know what handling means. It's a sexual thing, or I don't know. I don't know. That could mean a lot of things. Raymond Jones, you don't lift train if you haven't invested in a fitness product. Didn't work. Well, that's all. I think that's all of us. I mean, there still are. I don't want to say that in the old days the supplements were way worse than they are now, but we were far more gullible back then. Far more gullible. Anything that came along, boron, Smilex, ginseng, royal jelly, the stuff that they used to sell to us back in the old days, because we didn't even have Google. We had no internet. There was no way for us to check and see that this stuff was garbage, or that there was no evidence backing it up, and there were no clinical trials with human beings, things like that, that now anybody on your phone within 30 seconds to a minute, you can look at this wonder ingredients in the supplement that they're trying to tell you is going to do all these wonderful things for you. And you can say, no, they're full of shit. They're just trying to take my money. But yeah, I think we're at an advantage now, bodybuilders in general, especially this young generation, because they do have access to that. It's easy to find out. You get reviews, there's like Yelp reviews. If a product is crap, you'll find out pretty soon from a lot of people that it's crap. Whereas back in the day, we had no way to communicate with each other. This Cybergenics was a kit that they sold in the mid to late 80s, maybe into the early 90s. It was a kit with, I think there was a 30-day kit, a 90-day kit, and a 120-day kit. My wife, while we were dating in 1990, she bought me the 90-day kit, which at that time was like $200, which in today's money would probably be like $500. It was crap. If you can look it up, the ingredients and everything, it was garbage. The only good thing that came with Cybergenics, it came with a tape, showed you a great training routine and a manual with the workout and a suggested diet. And those are actually pretty good. I did their workouts for a couple months, and they were very intense workouts. They did tell you to do them on an empty stomach, which I tried once. And I'm like, this is bullshit. Training with weights on empty stomach to me is the dumbest thing you can do. It's so unproductive. Your body needs fuel. You need the glycogen in your muscles. I mean, even if you're not having carbs, you need something in your system. Waking up and going straight to the gym to lift weights, stupid, bad idea. I don't care. I don't care who argues with me about that. Nextzilla must be on a crazy cycle. Well, here's the thing, God of Frogs. I have this argument online. I try not to, because I don't want to waste so much time arguing with people, because it's very hard to win arguments. And even when you do, then what? Smug satisfaction, bragging rights. So let's say he is on a ton of drugs. Let's say every pro is supposedly on an average of 5 grams of steroids a week. I don't believe that they are. I don't believe every pro is on that. I'm sure some of them are. Some of them probably use more than that. And I bet some of them use significantly less than that. It's just like anything else. I don't think there's like one standard drug PED dosage across the board for all the pros. But let's say that Nextzilla uses 5 grams of gear a week. And let's throw in 15 or 20 IUs of GH, a huge amount of growth hormone every day. What would he look like if he cut that in half? Would he still look something? He would look pretty close. I don't think he'd be much smaller. You'd notice it, but he'd still be freakishly large compared to most of us who do this. By the same token, you and me and you, we're not like that. We are not those genetic anomalies. If we do 5 grams of steroids a week, 20 IUs of growth hormone a day, will we get bigger? Yeah, we'll get bigger to a point. We're not going to look like that guy no matter what we do. And we're going to get health problems. I mean, I can't remember whose post it was yesterday. I was arguing with this guy because he was saying, yeah, I started on like 5 grams of test and 2,000 deca and 2 grams of tren. That's when things got interesting. And the amount of damage you're doing to your organs at those doses, the amount of years you're taking off your life, it's hard to even justify it if you're a pro bodybuilder at the Olympia Arnold Classic level and there's big money at stake. Now there's really good money at stake compared to not even just a few years ago. But for a regular guy who either doesn't compete or realistically, you're never going to get past the local level. You might go to the national level. You're going to get your ass handed to you. You suck. And that's most people. Most people have average genetics. That's what average means. Average means it's what most people are or possess. Like average height in the US is like 5'9". That's not a bad thing. If you're 5'9", you're just average. You're not short, you're not tall, you're average. So most people are average, have average genetics for bodybuilding. They can get bigger, they can get leaner, they can look a lot better than when they started, but they're never going to look like the people who have these very exceptional genetics, way above average. And there are people who have much worse genetics, the true hard gainers, which years ago I used to bullshit myself and say I'm a hard gainer. No, turns out I had average genetics, maybe a little tiny bit above average, not much, but I did have at least average because I see all these people that I have known people that were as dedicated with the training, the eating, the rest, even the gear, and they still never looked as nearly as good as me. So their genetics were worse. Genetics are always going to be the determining factor. But yeah, I mean, if you think Zilla's on more drugs than everyone else, and that's why he's that big, no, don't believe that for a second. That's just cope. All those guys are probably on a very they're all on the same drugs. They're probably on very similar doses. There's probably a range. I couldn't tell you what it is, but I bet they're all on close to the same. I mean, if more drugs got everybody bigger and bigger, then everybody would use more and more drugs. But most people who try that, they see that it doesn't give them the results they want. They just experience more side effects. Even when I tried to go over, most of my cycles were 1,500 to 2,000 milligrams a week. A couple times I did go up to 3,000, maybe like 3,200 if you added all the milligrams together. I didn't get any bigger. I got puffier. I got more water retention. My blood pressure went up. I just didn't feel good. You know, even without getting a medical checkup, you know when you don't feel right. You know when your health it's not at its peak. You're starting to feel things aren't right. And when I did those cycles, I probably did it 3 or 4 times, 2 or 3, 4, I don't know, 2 to 4 times where I went over 3 grams. I didn't get any bigger. I didn't see an increase in actual muscle tissue. I was eating out of control, so I was a little fatter. I was definitely holding more water. I looked puffy and bloated. I was exhausted. You know, I'd get out of breath trying to bend over to tie my shoe, and my head, the high blood pressure in my head. When I put my head down, I felt like my head was going to explode. So I don't know, man. It's not about the cycle. It's genetics. Now, that's not to say that I don't think he's on like 200. He's not on a TRT dose. None of those guys are on like a TRT dose. They're all on way more than they should be if it was legitimate TRT. I mean, I doubt there's any pro bodybuilder that's under 1,500 milligrams a week when they're on cycle. But I don't think there are too many that go over the 5 to 6 gram range. I think that's a lot of drugs, even for somebody like that. I don't think most of them would do it multiple times. I think they might try going over 5 or 6 grams and see that it didn't give them. Even the late Boston Lloyd, God rest his soul, he did that 13 gram a week cycle once, just as experiment. And he came out and he said, I didn't really get any better results. I just had more side effects. And that's typically the result. People who also got on gear soon leave some gains on the table in the long run. I believe that. I believe you make better gains in the long run if you at least build a solid foundation of size and strength first. If you can max out your natural gains, I believe from what I've seen people do over the years, that's the best overall course of action. Train naturally as long as you can. Keep trying to make those gains come. When the gains finally stop after whatever it is, 3, 5, 10 years, whatever it is, then you add in the gear, and then you see the results start flying again. But the people that start the gear from day one, a lot of them quit because they get discouraged when they do take time off the gear, how they lose everything so quickly because they never had the base to begin with. People who built that natural base of size and strength, they're never going to shrink down to nothing because they already did build that. That's yours to keep, as I say. Whatever you build naturally, as long as you keep training and eating, you're not losing any of that. Whereas part of what you gear, a portion of the muscle and the size and strength that you gain while using PEDs, it's rented. When you stop using them, you're going to lose part of it. It's different for everybody. Some people lose less than others, more than others, so forth. So the reason why Ronnie got so massive. Yeah, people don't want to hear it. People don't want to hear that Ronnie was natural or Kai Green was natural because he had to be on something. He had to be because they're on gear and they're nowhere near as big or impressive as Kai was naturally or Ronnie was naturally. But they don't understand. We're talking about these genetic outliers. I say this all the time. These guys like a Ronnie or Kai, they're as rare as a guy who's over 6'9". They're, even in the USA, only 15% of men are over 6 feet tall. 15%. So 85% of men in the USA are under 6 feet tall. How many guys, I would have to look into it, but I bet you, how many guys are over 6'4"? I bet it's like less than 1%. How many guys are over 6'8" or 6'9"? I bet it's like 0.00001%. And it's the same thing. These guys that have the freakish genes for bodybuilding, they're going to be bigger and more impressive naturally than most people could ever be on drugs, just because they picked the right parents. It's not fair. Life's not fair. It's why your height is what it is, unless you get limb lengthening. Your face is what it is. And your bodybuilding genetics, they are what they are. You can't change your genetics. Maybe someday soon, maybe with all these wacky scientific advances, maybe we will be able to change our genetics. I don't know. Johnny a Sponge loves training. Me too, man. Thank you for the show. Thank you. Actually, addicted training. Yeah, addiction is a strange word. And I obviously shy away from it because I don't want to think of myself as an addict, like I'm addicted to training. But I guess if you look into true definition of addiction, it's something that you have no control over. You simply have to keep doing it. You're compelled to do it. You do it, or use this drug or whatever, even when it's to the detriment of your life. You lose your job, you lose your kids, your health starts to go, but you still need that alcohol or that cocaine or that meth or whatever it is. So, I mean, if bodybuilding to the point where you've sacrificed your health, which a lot of guys do, a lot of guys, most of these guys who have passed away before the age of 50, and there's unfortunately a lot of them, guys and girls, from heart attacks, from strokes, from kidney failure, things that were the direct result of long-term PED use. A lot of them had warning signs that they just ignored, or they didn't do blood work and they didn't do EKGs and calcium scores. They didn't want to know what was going on. They would rather live in denial and just hope for the best than a doctor say, you're in congestive heart failure, these steroids, you better stop the steroids immediately. No more intense training. They don't want, the last thing they want to hear is that, because, oh my God, if I can't train, if I can't be big and huge, what the hell is my life going to be like? And I mean, I had to come to terms with the fact that I'm not going to ever be that huge again. I'm never going to be 240 pounds. I mean, I used to walk around pretty lean, 225 to 230. I mean, I could see my abs. And now it's like 210, 212 in the same condition. It's a good amount of muscle to lose, but I'm finally at peace with it. I mean, I'm 56 years old in a couple months. I've seen so many people my age or younger die, bodybuilders. I want to live. To me, death is, nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to die. I don't want to die. I know I'm going to die someday. You're going to die someday. We're all going to die someday. But the longer I can put that off and enjoy every minute and hour and day and month and year on this earth, I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to do anything more. I'm on TRT now, but I'm not taking tren. I'm not taking orals. I'm not doing anything that's intentionally going to probably shorten my lifespan any more than I probably already have. I've probably already taken some years off my life. I don't deny that. Urs and Marcus did a collab again. Oh, wow. Marcus, even though he's 50s, trees like an absolute monster. She's much younger doing this. Yeah. Yeah, Marcus Rule is still a big dude. I saw him in his prime. I remember seeing him for the first time in the Gold's Gym Venice pro shop, where they sell all the T-shirts and sweatshirts and tank tops and stuff. And he was there with his girlfriend at the time, I think. And he wasn't really famous yet. I think he had just started to compete as a pro. This was like 97 or 98. And I saw him from behind. This blonde flat top, and the shoulders in the back were just so wide. I'm like, who the hell is that? And I walked around and looked at him. I still didn't recognize him. And I went up and introduced myself. I said, man, wow, you're huge, man. What's your name? He said, Marcus Rule from Germany. I'm getting ready for whatever it was, Night of Champions. I'm like, dude, you're friggin' a freak. And yeah, he was something else. He was quite a mass monster. Dorian took 6 days a week off his entire career. Yeah, Johnny. Dorian's competitive career, I mean, he went hard. Dorian went hard. Think about it. His first pro show was 1990. His last pro show was 1997. So that's 7 years, right? So Dexter Jackson, his first pro show was 1999. His last show was 2020. Dexter had a 21-year pro career. Dorian had a 7-year pro career. Dexter had 3 times longer pro career than Dorian did because Dexter backed off. He listened to his body. If he ever felt like a twinge, he said in several interviews that I did with him, he would back off. Like if he felt something weird in his pec, he wouldn't train chest again, even if it was a week or 2 or 3 weeks until everything felt fine again. If anything felt remotely sketchy, he would just back off. That's why he never had a tear. He never had any muscle tears. Dorian tore a muscle in his hip before he even turned pro. Shortly into his pro career, he tore that bicep. He tore a tricep right before his last Olympia. It was hanging on by a thread while he was on stage. And I think that's it. But man, he was all torn up. And I think Dorian could have kept going. I don't know if, would Dorian have been able to beat Ronnie the way Ronnie came into the Olympia after that? I don't know, but he certainly kept going. Thank you, Lizol. Thank you. Appreciate it, Lizol. Results will train no matter what, PR or ER. I might have to steal that, Raymond. I like that, PR or ER. The 1 week better strength training used to have a lot. The 1 week better strength thing you used to have a lot. Not so much. I do the split. Yates use absolute load. 6 days of rest each body part. Yeah. I don't know about an ideal training split. Dorian trained every muscle group once a week. He only trained 4 days a week, so he had 3 complete days off training. Then you had Ronnie Coleman, who trained 6 days a week. He had every body part twice. I think Arnold trained 6 days a week, but he had everything 3 times. We're going back 60 years almost with Arnold talking about what he did, at least 50 years. I don't know. I mean, I always just say, listen to your body and try different splits and routines and rest day combinations. And some people do get better results with more rest. Some people actually do better with more frequent training. You never know where you fall into that. I do find that people who were athletes in sports like football, wrestling, sports that were very demanding, especially football, where they did like the 2-a-day practices, and football practices are just brutal, grueling. People that come to bodybuilding from those backgrounds tend to do better. Like Ronnie was a college football player at Grambling State in Louisiana. Those type of people seem to do better with more frequency. They can train 6 days a week, no problem, and they recover because their bodies are used to that workload. Where there are other people that they do that and they overtrain and they start getting sick or they start shrinking and losing strength. You never know where you fall into that until you've tried a few different approaches. I'll say I've made this much progress in your split. And you know what? Whatever split works for you, do it. Whatever works for you or me, that's all that matters. It ain't broke, don't fix it. Don't worry about what anyone else does or what anyone else says is the best. There is no best training system or anything. It's a matter of trial and error, and you can have coaches and all that, but until you've really tried a lot of different approaches and techniques, exercises and splits, you'll never know which one could have given you the best result. So I do say experiment with different types of training, different exercises, hand positions, foot positions. Do all kinds of experimentation in the gym, even with your diet and stuff. You will find things that work better for you. And you keep collecting those, and eventually the progress just keeps building over time. 4 days a week, upper, lower, those 2 hours the only time I focus on me. I don't think about problems. Yeah. That's why a lot of us love training so much. It's our escape. It's our therapy. It's, especially, unfortunately, we have these phones that are like glued to our hands now, and we're looking at them between sets. I can't keep my phone in the locker because I'm always worried. Like, what if my wife needs to ask me a question? What if a lot of times my wife does need me or my son needs me on the workout. They need to ask me something or an answer, whatever it is. But yeah, it's the only time that's your time, especially if you have a wife, kids, a demanding job. Most of your day and even your night, people are up your ass. They're just like bugging you, and the gym is your only time where it's you. This is your time to focus on you and shut the world out. Leave all your problems and your stress and worried about your job or your mortgage payment or your sick mom or whatever it is. For an hour or two, you can leave all that outside that gym door and just focus on the weights and the feeling in the muscles and, you know, the music in your headphones, if that's your thing. And it's a beautiful thing. And that's why most of us were in love with it. That's why we're in love with it. Dave Thomas, third workout of the day. Made redundant. In the UK, they call it it's called sacked. I mean, I was made redundant because my company went out of business, MD. The company I worked for over 20 years, they just went poof. One day they were just gone. I got a phone call on a Wednesday, and by Friday, the company was gone. So I feel you, brother. I feel you. Already been 2 weeks since surgery. I still get sick of doing one side body. Well, two things. I didn't want to just train legs because they do need time to recover. Like I did, I trained Saturday. I trained legs Saturday, and I used, obviously, I can't squat with one arm. The leg press, I was in a sling, so I couldn't even use the leg press because I can't unlatch both sides. I was trying to look around and say, what can I use? So the only things I saw were there's a hammer strength leg press that starts in a deficit with no latches, so you don't have to unlatch or anything. I use that. And then I use that pendulum squat machine where there's a latch, the hook, but it's on your right side. So even with the sling, I could use that. And my quads got more sore from that workout than they had been in like a year, at least. Probably more sore than the last time that sore was when I was just starting back into leg training after not training them for about 5 months after I tore my quad in late summer, early fall of 2023. Anyway, what was my point there? Yeah, I can't just do legs all the time. They need time to recover. And I remember, you know, I've had injuries. I tore this tricep in 2011. I had shoulder surgery on the same surgery in 2011. Those surgeries are 4 weeks apart. And I still was doing something. I was like, I'm not going to not go to them. It's not like I'm not going to stop training for months until I can do this again. And there are studies that prove that nerve impulses from one side do travel to the other side. It's all connected. You will actually lose. So you could have the left arm in a cast for 4 months. And they've done experiments with this, legit experiments. If you train the other side of your body, when that cast comes off, if you trained, there will be less atrophy, meaning you'll have retained a little bit more muscle mass than you would have for the people that didn't do any training at all. So, and also I just love training. Plus, this is my good shoulder. And like today I did chest. I did hammer strength incline press with this arm. I did a pec fly with the whole stack with one arm. Yay, Ron. With the hammer strength, it's funny because the posts are up here. They're at like eye level. I could probably get a 45 up there. It would be a pain with one arm. It would be because I'm not supposed to be lifting anything with this arm yet. But I just piled 25s on. Anyway, point being, this shoulder feels good and I can do a lot of things, everything one arm. I did lateral raise machine. I did the cable laterals for shoulders. I did a shoulder press with this grip, a machine. Tricep, I can do cables like this. I laid down on a bench with a dumbbell and I did like a skull crusher with a dumbbell. Do a dip machine one arm. There's a lot. I can do everything with this arm, with this side. And it just feels good to get a pump and to move some weight, even though a lot of these things you're using half the weight because it's one side of your body. Joe Toth in Ohio, shredded. This guy is shredded all the time, guys. Still train legs, left side, and body from 3 weeks of surgery. I can't remember. Remind me what surgery you had, Joe. So you had something with your shoulder, right? You don't love training if you don't require surgery by age 50. There are some people. Do I need to mute my mic? I'm not going to. There are people who make it all the way through a lifetime of training with no injuries and their joints feel great. They are the few and far between. Most people, by the time you're 50, if you started training at the average time, sometime in your mid to late teens, like most of us, I was 13, you're going to have pain, shoulders, knees, elbows, maybe ankles, certainly your lower back. You're going to have a lot because it's just overuse. It's like anything physical. You know, someone who's a coal miner for 30 years, they're all jacked up. Pro football players, they're all jacked up. I mean, anyone that's beating their body, using their body strenuously against heavy resistance or any repetitive motion, you know, like pitchers in baseball or even softball, their shoulders are, for the most part, destroyed after a few years of being a pitcher. I know that. I've read that before. The eating has always been the hardest. I say that's the hardest part of bodybuilding is the eating. It's by far. Training is fun. They say everybody want to be a bodybuilder, don't nobody want to lift no heavy ass weight. That was one of Ronnie's catchphrases. I disagree. It's everybody want to be a bodybuilder and lift some heavy ass weight. Not everybody wants to cook 6 meals a day and eat 6 meals every damn day, 5 or 6 meals, and take food with them everywhere. It's a job. It's work. Off-season diet both absolutely suck. Yeah, I'm edging as much as Jay did. Nor doesn't enjoy food. Yeah, I mean, it gets to the point where, most regular people, most of us love to eat, but we love to eat what we like to eat when we want to eat it. When we got a good appetite, we're hungry, and there's some pizza or some Chinese food or some KFC. Oh boy, sign me up. I'm all for it. But 2.5 hours have gone by since your last chicken and rice meal. Now it's time for some ground turkey and a baked potato or something. It's not that thrilling, but you get it. You get the food down. You eat the right foods at the right times because that's what builds the physique. Eating all the good food every day at those intervals over time, over months, over years. That's how we transform ourselves from whatever we look like before to this glorious incarnation of muscle. And most of you, if you're not there yet, if you keep at it, even the genetically average, which most of us are genetically average, that's what the word average means again, remember. If you keep consistent with your training hard and trying to get stronger over time in that hypertrophy rep range, 8 to 12 for the upper body, maybe 8 to 20 for the lower body, keep getting all that protein and complex carbs and vegetables and fruits and healthy fats every day and getting a solid 8 hours of sleep every night, maybe even a nap if you can get it, you're going to look so much better. People won't recognize you. Will you look like Nextzilla? No, you will not. You will not look like Nextzilla. I promise you that. However, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because he's a 1 in a million. The guys that have those freak genetics look like a pro bodybuilder, I'd say they're like 1 in 100,000. There's just not that many of them. Because if you look at any gym, even all the people that are on tons of juice, how many of them really have physiques that make you go, wow? There's not that many. It's the people with the excellent genetics, and they're just not that common. Liquid liver. Okay, I did have the liquid. I had liquid amino. People say, what's the most disgusting supplement? I haven't asked that question. What's the most disgusting supplement you ever used? And I can tell you exactly what it was. In 1987, fall of 87, that was when I became a bodybuilder. It was my first semester of college. I had gone out to University of California, Santa Barbara, and a Flex magazine came in the mail because I had bought a Weider jug of Weight Gainer at a supplement store and something I tore off the side and put my name and address. You got a free magazine. Anyway, I went to a Great Earth vitamin shop down in Santa Barbara, and I saw these liquid aminos. They were supposed to be cherry flavored. It was a little white bottle. I remember it had a picture of cherries on it. Tasted nothing like no cherries I've ever seen on the planet Earth, or tasted, I should say. Maybe cherries that had been like fermented in the sun for 3 months and then mixed with some lighter fluid or something. It was disgusting. And it said to take it 30 minutes before training. And it had the listing of aminos on the side. I hope the aminos were actually in there, but it was probably some really low shit quality, like from collagen or something. I'm very, very doubtful it was high quality amino acids in this thing. It was so disgusting that I would gag every time. I had to hold my nose. It was like 2 tablespoons or 3 tablespoons. And I would spoon it down, hold my nose and swallow real quick. And I would almost always gag. I usually didn't throw up, but it was nasty. But yeah, I back in the day, there were some shitty, horrible supplements. Even the early protein powders were pretty nasty. Stuff now is delicious, which we have now. Yeah, I mean, you can say that about, I can imagine like what my teenage years would have been like if I had iPhone and internet and social media. Probably wouldn't have ended well. I got sucked into with Cybergenics. $132 of garbage. Yeah. Dude, I remember the commercials with Franco Santoriello. And those are the ones that really got me hooked. It was on, I think, the show I ended up working on ESPN called American Muscle. I was a fan of the show before I went out west and started working for it. And I used to tape the shows. And I think that was one of their major sponsors, Cybergenics. It was. So that commercial always ran. It would show Franco Santoriello. And there was a picture of him like off gear, fat, let his gut hang out. And then the picture next to him, it was him like holding a gym bag with this freaking jacked. He had huge arms, delts. He was all tanned and veiny, smiley. And he said it was from Cybergenics. And of course, it was a genetic freak loaded up on gear. But still, I bought that shit. You bought that shit. And the guy was so wealthy. What was the name? What was the name of that guy? Chinnery, Scott Chinnery. The guy who owned that company had so much money, he bought the original Batmobile from the TV show Batman. He bought that at an auction. I think he had guitars, a collection of guitars from like Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton. You know, this guy was he lived in this massive mansion in New Jersey. And that was your money and my money. Or I should say my wife bought it. It was her money at the time. Getting handled by others is indeed sexual when the trend kicks into here. So getting handled, does that mean like another man's penetrating you or something? I don't know all the I assume you're Gen X. Is Gen X slang? I just heard a new one on an Instagram post today called Chopped. Chopped means ugly, I guess. I mean, I don't even know where these things come from. Chopped. 5 grams of gear is nuts. I think it's insane. But there were people in the comments saying, no, that's no big deal. All the pros are on that. And, when they feel that way, then that makes them want to do it and think, well, if Joe, my favorite pro's on 5 or 6 grams, I'll do 5 or 6 grams. What the heck? Couldn't hurt. It can hurt. It can hurt. And I think these people are really they're rolling the dice with their health and their longevity. And, until you have a major health scare, until something takes your health away, you'll never appreciate it. Your health is your wealth. But I don't think nobody can ever truly appreciate what it is to be healthy until you lose that, until you get very sick or a severe injury. Any of you who have gone through it, you have a deeper, especially those of you who have had like life-threatening injuries or illnesses where you could have died. Maybe some of you almost did die. You have a deeper appreciation for life than almost everybody else. Because, like I said, don't know what you got till it's gone. You don't miss something until it's gone. And, I have a deeper appreciation for my health now just because I'm older. I've had some injuries, but mostly because I've seen so many people die around me, friends, family, training partners. 2 of my training partners committed suicide. I had nothing to do with that, but I mean, it was awful. It was terrible. One of them left like a 4-year-old son behind. Remember when HMB came out, Bill Phillips, it feels like Deca. That was the quote. Feels like Deca. Yeah, I had that. I tried HMB Quantum Effects. Didn't do jack shit. Did jack shit. And they have all these studies, but those studies, they're easy to interpret in whatever way you want to present a more attractive product. HMB, I can't remember what the exact claims were, but like it built 16% more strength and 12% more muscle mass, 32% more muscle mass. And I was like, oh boy. I mean, Steve Bleckman, who I worked for many years, him and his brothers owned a company called Twin Lab, and they had a practice for years, a very successful practice of whenever a new study would come out about just like one thing like boron or Smilax showing any kind of physique improvement or strength improvement or body composition improvement, they would immediately rush to production and call it boron fuel or Smilax fuel or whatever. And they made a killing. They would make millions of dollars every time they came out with one of these, I'm going to say it, bullshit products that, it's like one study done with like pregnant nuns, done with like elderly nuns or something that showed a little bit of strength gain or a muscle mass gain or, untrained people. I mean, very few of these studies are ever done with people who have been training consistently and eating well for years, because they typically don't make much improvement no matter what happens, because they've already made a bunch of improvements. My granny brought me Cybergenics. That's a good grandma. Your grandma and my girlfriend at the time. Heiko Kalbach. We still village used about 4 to 6 grams test for first. I remember Heiko. I saw him at I don't know if I came up with the nickname. I used to come up with article names for these people because I had to come up with catchy article names. And the one I remember coming up with for Heiko Kalbach was the Berlin Wall, because he was like this big wall of muscle. Horrible aesthetics, big gut, blocky, but he was just a big, huge, massive dude. He was, I don't know, like 270 or 280 or something. He had a big gap in his teeth, a flat top. I wonder if he was able to. Is he still alive? I don't wish ill on anybody, but I mean, that's somebody that looked to me like he was really pushing the limits of health and safety. Dan Duchesne, anabolic handbook. Yeah, you're right. And then Bill Phillips came out with, what was his one? It wasn't called the Anabolic Reference Guide. That was later on Bill Llewellyn. But Bill Phillips came out with his own book too. But the main one was Dan Duchesne. The Anabolic Reference, was it Anabolic Reference Guide? Was his? I think it was only like 60 or 70 pages. It was really more like a freaking pamphlet. But he sold it for like $20. He sold millions of units, millions of copies, got pretty wealthy off of it. And that's how most guys at that time in like the mid 80s, that's where they got their info. There's no internet, remember? I mean, you could ask your meathead buddies at the gym, the big guy at the gym, hey, what should I do? But you know, most of the time those guys weren't that bright. They just blasted a bunch of gear and lifted weights and ate a bunch of food and they got big. They didn't know what the hell they were doing. What's happening is Ionic. If you're a guy, you wear yoga pants. Yoga pants. Well, I mean, every once in a while, especially even this last winter, I started wearing leggings on leg day again. I mean, you have to be shameless to wear leggings in 2024, 2025, period. But as a guy who's my age, you know, I'm sure people are whispering behind their backs saying, look at that idiot, look at that clown, look at that, whatever they were calling me. But I was like, I don't give a fuck. I mean, the older you get, you stop worrying so much about what people think about you. And you know, because you get to the point where you realize nobody really cares. People are just into themselves. They don't really care about what anyone else is doing. And you spend all that mental energy and stress worrying so much. Oh no, I can't wear this, or I can't have my hair like that, or I can't go to this place. I can't do this because what are people going to think? What are people going to say? And then you realize I just should have done it, because just do what you want to do, because no one cares anyway. And if they do, so what? You know, who the heck are they? You're going to let those people dictate how you live your life? Love the 80s workout clothing. Period was, oh man, I had some great stuff. I actually have, once in a while, I have dreams. I know how stupid this is going to sound, where I'm opening up like a bureau drawer, and it's like all my old bodybuilding clothes from the 80s and 90s. I still have them, like, yes. And they're in like mint condition. The string tank tops, the hot skins, the T. Michael tops. It's all there. It's all back. I love that stuff. Went from 150, 195 in the Army, been out since 99. So my weight stays around 200 stage weight, 173. Yeah, so you put on almost 50 pounds of muscle, man. That's amazing. I mean, anybody who doesn't go to I wouldn't tell you to do this because it's expensive, but go to anywhere where they sell meat, like a Costco or something. Try to get trays of steak tips or something to add up to like 50 pounds altogether. Look at all that. See all that steak, all that meat, and imagine that on your body. That's how much 50 pounds of muscle is. I think I stole that because Mike Mentzer said that years ago. He says, for anyone who doesn't think like adding 10 pounds of muscle is significant, put 10 pounds of steak on a table in front of you and really take a good look at it. That's a lot of freaking muscle. It's a lot of meat that you've added to your body. So give yourself a little pat. HIT works better. For you, it does. Yeah, I mean, it does work better for a lot of people, but some people really do try that, and they try volume, and volume works better for them. We're not all the same. There's no universal way of training that gives everybody the best results. If there was, eventually it would catch on and everyone would just do that, because like science-based lifting, if there was something that proved this is the best way to train across the board, I would do it. You know, whether or not it was what I enjoyed most or not, I would do it. I mean, HIT, I did give it a good run. I got stronger. I didn't really seem to put on much muscle mass. I was doing that. I was natural when I did that type of training. Even when I did dog crap training for about a year and a half, that was when I was taking a break from gear. So again, I probably would have done any type of training is going to be more effective with gear, because gear does what it does. Stuck with this face and penis size. Yeah, Joe. It's funny, man. I don't know why I watch some of these videos. There's a channel called Hink, H-I-N-K. He wears like a luchador mask, and almost all his videos are about like what's the average penis size or how to increase penis size. And he sells a system. I don't know. I think it's a combination of like a pump, and then you have to do all this painful stretching every day to get like another quarter inch or half inch. Where I'm like, dude, if you're average and everything works fine, just fucking be happy, because it could be worse. We take everything for granted. Imagine you're doing all that shit to your penis, or maybe you have some operation where you're injecting some shit, some fat or something in there. And then after that, it goes wrong and your penis doesn't work anymore. Now you're going to go the rest of your life without a penis. You should have just stayed with what you had. I know we're talking too much about penises, but whatever it is, your physique, I mean, you gotta sit back and just be grateful and be happy for what you do have, instead of always crying and worrying and complaining and feeling sorry for yourself about what you don't have compared to somebody else. Because what is it? Envy is the enemy of. There's a quote that I want to remember, and it'll come to me when we're done. But it's basically saying comparison is the thief of joy. That's what it is. I can't remember who said that. Is it Shakespeare or somebody? I don't know. But comparisons, if you're always comparing yourself, the way you look or the possession, the money you make or the possessions you have, you're always comparing yourself to other people who have more or better. You're always going to be miserable. Always going to be miserable. 56 as well. Longevity is my main focus. Yeah. Quantum. I'll be there in September. I'm not there yet, but I can see it. I can see 56. It's right over there. It's coming. Never sneak up on a heavily muscle behind. I try not to sneak up on anybody. Ryan only beaten Dorian, but Dorian would have placed anywhere from 3rd to 5th. I don't know about that. I do think Ronnie, the way Ronnie looked in 98, 99, I don't think there was anybody in the world that would have beat even Dorian. Because by that time, Dorian had the torn bicep, the torn tricep. Maybe the Dorian of like 93 would have stood a chance of beating the Ronnie that we saw in his first 2 Olympia wins, 98, 99. But yeah, I don't think that the Dorian that retired, had he kept going, I don't think he would have been able to beat Ron. Spinberg, what's up? Who's the most peeled guy you've ever witnessed? Well, I can say that I did see Andreas Munzer up close. It was 92 or 93. Was it 91? At some point in the early 90s. I was working for that American Muscle Show, and we covered the Ironman Pro, the Pro Invitational Show. And the next day, the Sunday, as was typical, usually the day after big shows, whether it was an amateur show or a pro show, we would book video shoots for the TV show with, either the most marketable people, the winners, or both, or whatever. Anyway, on that day, we brought Munzer and Momo Benaziza, who I drove both of them from the Marina Pacific Hotel, which was less than a mile away. But I guess, they want to make sure they got there on time. So Munzer, I watched up close, training, doing, curls and leg extensions. We had him run through just a variety of exercises. And every little muscle fiber, you could see every little fiber. But I've seen plenty of people that I can't even remember their names, like people that were amateurs that got super, super shredded. Like you could literally see every fiber, deep splits between every muscle group. I've seen some people, and they weren't usually the biggest people either. A lot of the people that I've seen with almost a freakish condition, size wasn't that impressive. They weren't really big guys. But man, they got freaky ripped. If everyone had equal Jackson, Historian would have been number 1. Yeah, well, I mean, if genetics are equal, so if like they're all clones, imagine if it was like pro bodybuilders was just one guy cloned 1,000 times, and they were all on the same. They were all, maybe this is like a lab condition or something where they're given the same food, the same gear, everything's the same, and they're genetically identical. The only difference in the way they looked at that point would be who trained harder, who was more efficient at training and stimulating the muscle group. So I see what you're saying. Dorian was mentally more disciplined and powerful than just about everybody he competed against in that era. He always said if Flex Wheeler had his drive, his work ethic, Flex would have kicked his ass, but he didn't. So Dorian kicked his ass. Flex never beat Dorian. Sometimes you'll train a little too much where your hot girlfriend leaves because the only thing you're committed to is the gym. Yeah, there's a lot of memes about that, but I mean, we're all men with, some of you like other men, and that's whatever. That's fine. But I'm saying as dudes, even I would never give up a chance to have sex to go to the gym. I'll be like, I can go to the gym tomorrow, or I can go to the gym later. If I can have sex right now, I'm being offered it, or it's the opportunity is there, I'm having sex, even at this age. I'll go to the gym some other time. Sex is better. I was just thinking of liquid oral D-ball. So I used that in summer of 99. I was coming back to gear after being off it for all of 1998 and the first half of 99, right? And it was Reforvit B. It was a D-ball that you could inject, or I heard you could drink it. So liquid oral. So I think that's, yeah, the one you're talking about, it was meant to be injected. It was a veterinary product. It was for animals. Reforvit B. It was from Mexico. But the guy who gave me the gear, and that's why I went back on the gear, is because this guy offered to give me a bunch of free gear. I'm like, all right, I'll take it. Oh, sure. Plus my 30th birthday was coming up September that year. And I was like, maybe I could get some photo shoots going. And I did. I shot with Mike Nevue for Iron Man magazine at the end of that. I'll call it a prep, even though there was no contest. I shot with Jerry Frederick, a workout in Gold's Venice that became like a full page thing, 2 full pages in Iron Man. I did two video shoots. I'm sorry. Valio weight gloves. There was one that was just me. There was one where it was me plus a bunch of other people. So yeah, that ended up being 2 different commercials. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't for a contest, but I got a lot more exposure out of it than I would have had I just competed. Twin Lab liquid aminos. Yeah, all liquid aminos back in the day were just vile, horrible. Liquid Reforvit. Yeah, it was like an amber kind of. I remember just because I didn't have like an oral syringe. I just used like a regular syringe. Like I would draw it out with the needle and squirt it on my tongue. And I think at least once or twice, my dumb ass stuck my tongue with the needle by accident. Yeah, I'd love to have it now. I mean, if you're going to take D-ball, just take the damn pills. I mean, why would you want to drink that disgusting stuff and just pop a little pill? Liquid protein was absolutely disgusting. Yeah, the supplements back in the day that nothing tasted, they had not really perfected any of the flavoring at all yet. It was like not even, I don't know if they're even trying to make things taste any better. They're like, fuck it, these people drink anything. We'll just give them whatever. Chewable liver tabs. I never had the chewable ones, but for many years, I used to take the liver aminos from Perillo, which were these big horse pills. And not only that, they weren't meant to be taken one at a time. You're supposed to take anywhere between 5 and 10 with every meal. So there were people I knew that were taking like 80 to 100 of those a day. I was taking I think I was doing like 6 or 7 per meal, 6 meals a day. So do the math on that. And, it was hard. These were big fucking thick pills. So I'd be like drinking water, like try to get it down. Oh, try again. Ugh, horrible. No doubt, a big bottle of, yeah. Yeah, that's the thing about the veterinary steroids is because a lot of them were meant to be used for cattle or for horses. And obviously, a horse doesn't care if you put 10 mLs of oil into it. It's a fucking horse. But so they were dosed with a lower potency, like 50 milligrams per milliliter, instead of, 200 or 250 or 300. So you had to put a lot of freaking oil in your butt or your shoulder or whatever. I remember the first cycle I did was Sustanon 250s preloaded with these big harpoons that I was too stupid to know I could have changed the needle head. And the Deca was this veterinary Deca from Mexico, and it was 50 milligrams per milliliter. And I was trying to get 400 a week of that. So that was how many? 50? It's like 8. So 8 mLs of oil just to get 400 milligrams of Deca. God. Weeder protein powder from Nurse. Was it nasty? Yeah. The dropper works so well. Okay. Cassettes in the mail on train. Bill Phillips. Yeah, I remember that. Duchesne and Mike Mentz used to sell a lot of training cassettes. Nathan was Robin in Portugal. I think he should have been second place. I don't think he was winning the show. I never had him winning. I didn't have him beating Rubiel. To me, Rubiel was a clear winner at this Portugal show. But I had Nathan second. I don't know how Bruno beat him. Bruno's a good bodybuilder. Nathan's a slightly better bodybuilder. He had him. He had him in almost every pose. The only pose I actually gave to Bruno was the front lat. I like his shape a lot on the front lat, but every other pose I gave to Nathan. Maybe the rear double was kind of close. Yeah, the guy in the gym for steroid info, right? Dave Shane's Ultimate Orange Powered, yeah. So that was the first, 20 years before we had pre-workouts as a category, supplement category. There was this thing that came in a tub called Ultimate Orange with a picture of an orange on it. And it had, like you said, ephedra, caffeine. It had a lot of stimulants in it. And people would take that before their workouts and get all hyped up. And then it just sort of went away. It's too bad. It was a good. I think I did use it once. I had one tub of it, I should say. So I used it for a month or two until it ran out. But after that, I went to just caffeine. I was drinking instant coffee on the way to the gym, or I'd pop a couple ephedrine tablets and the coffee, and then I'd be squatting and deadlifting like a mother effer. Alberto Montejo. The reason you don't get pumped with the minimum, your cardiac arteries are blocked. 75% American males, females catching up. Yeah. Oh, I remember like the pumps I used to get on earlier, years ago when I was blasting, especially the first 10 years of gear use, I would say. That's when I used to get the crazy. I remember my delts would get so pumped training shoulders, I would have to stop and walk around the gym for a few minutes because I couldn't even lift my arm. I couldn't even raise it to touch my head because the pump, it was literally so tight, packed with blood, my shoulders. Imagine that. Underground Steroid Handbook was gold. Yeah. Surprising Heiko is still alive. Good for him. Wait, I came out the Berlin Wall. Yeah. I'm still trying to figure out if I'm the one that came up with Victor Martinez's nickname, the Dominican Dominator. Because like I said, if I had to write an article, I couldn't just call it Victor Martinez profile or meet Victor Martinez. When I did the first article I did about everybody was like a profile. It told their story, their origin story, how they got into bodybuilding and all that. And I always try to come up with a catchy name for the title, like Victor. Well, he's originally from Dominican Republic, Dominican Dominator. I try to make it sort of alliterate, DD. So I think I did come up with that one. But yeah, the Berlin Wall I came up with. I didn't know if it caught on. The collaboration Giles, what happened? Which one? Thinking I was killing myself when you said it. I mean, yeah, 750 that's a lot of I mean, a gram. I remember a gram. I never went to a gram. I did 750 a few times, and to me, that was plenty. That's I would do 250 like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and I was getting all puffy and zits, and I mean that was plenty. I can't imagine doubling, tripling, quadrupling that. I didn't see anything good happening out of it, resulting from that. So, but these guys doing like 3, 4, 5 grams of test alone, they're out of their minds. They're really taking their life in their hands. Dan Shannon, ground ceramics, just too unredacted rod process. Chemical warfare. Yeah, I mean he was using bodybuilders as guinea pigs. Absolutely, he was. Dan Duchesne was a pioneer, but he was also very reckless. He didn't really experiment on himself. He did a couple times, I guess, but for the most part, all his experiments were conducted with other bodybuilders. Like, why don't you try this and let's see what happens? And then he would arrive at, well, this drug is good for that. These are the side effects you get from using this, or these dosages. This dosage seems to be problematic, and people are getting a lot of water retention, high blood pressure. And he came to conclusions based on real life experiments with bodybuilders in Venice that were around him, because they all sort of looked up to him because there was no information. They didn't know what the hell they were doing. And Dan was a smart guy, so they trusted him. If I go this year, yeah. Next walk will be there, Big Rum. It's going to be, well, Darren, I hope Nextzilla gets a visa. I mean, I keep hearing that he's trying to get his visa. And Chris Cormier keeps saying, we're like trying. I mean, Colombia is not a country that the USA has problems with. They're not, on our terrorist threat list or anything like that. Yeah, I know there's like a big drug trade in Colombia, but there's a few other countries you could say the same for. So I don't know. I hope he gets here. My goodness, because he's got a huge fan base. He's a freak of nature. He's good for the fans. He's good for the show, because even if he's not the greatest physique, and I don't think he is, I think he's going to be fighting to be in the top 10. I'll say it, but I can't help but respect all that muscle mass, and he does have, some crazy shots. His side chest, side tricep, lights out. His rear double bicep is freaky. That most muscular. It's just so much round, thick muscle mass. It's impressive. 56 for half my size of weight. I'll do one more bulk. One lower back injury. Stimulating my back. Okay. Yeah, I mean, whatever you can find in terms of therapies, whether it's ice or electro muscle stimulation or anything, foam rolling, whatever it is, anything that you can find that you try that helps you train with a little less pain, maybe get a little bit more range of motion. It's either that or you're always going to therapies. You're always going to chiropractors, massage therapists. I mean, I haven't been able to afford a massage therapist now in quite some time because, like I said, I have enough money to pay my bills, but I don't have money for extra crap. That's why people are saying, "Oh, you got to get on all the BPC and the TB," and I'm like, dude, I don't have the money for that right now. I don't. I mean, I could. I'm not gonna be worried about, oh no, I can't make my lease payment for my car or my insurance. I'm not gonna worry about that because I went out and bought like $500 or $600 worth of, peptides or GH or whatever it is. So I'm not using any of that stuff. Okay. Envy is the art of counting the other fellow's blessings instead of your own. Yeah. Good one. Turn 18 on Monday. You're just a kid. Love training, so much fun. If I can't do 3 days in a row without losing my mind. Yeah. And like I said, but I don't think you should ever go more than 3 days in a row of training. Personally, I think anybody starts to lose a little steam, a little bit of oomph. Like you're not going to have the best workout on that 4th day that you could have if you were just taking another day off and taking a day off at that point and come back. Even somebody who's young, I don't think anybody should really be training more than 3 days without a day off. Personally, if you can do it, maybe you're one of the rare ones. But most people, by the time you've done 3 workouts in a row, 3 days in a row of training, you'll notice your performance is starting to suffer a little bit. Your energy levels, your focus, your concentration, everything's just starting to dip at that point. So that's why I wouldn't do it. Davey Mize, what's up, Davey? Ready to head to the gym. Question about training. So I know sometimes when I do a deload week, my pumps are insane. Yeah, that makes sense, Davey, because on the deload week, you're not worried about the weight you're lifting. You probably feel more free, either subconsciously or consciously, to just squeeze the weight and get a really good pump. And you're not worried about, oh no, I have to squat 365 for 6 for my top set today. You're backing off on the weights and you're focusing more on the actual feeling in the muscle, and you're free to explore that and get these great pumps. So that actually makes perfect sense. More Earth Day early, but thank you. Very early. It's actually my younger brother Steve's birthday today, and my niece Christy. Steve is 53 today, and Christy is 51. Yeah, wow. They're born in 72 and 74. Don't understand what I'm using. Half the volume of 3/4 weight. Can you explain this? Yeah, I mean, even the volume, like I said, the weight itself, that makes perfect sense, because now you can never really, if weight progression is your focus, of course, you're still trying to be a bodybuilder and feel the contractions and squeeze the muscle and all that. But at the same time, if you're like, I need to get 10 reps with this weight or else, it can sort of take away from the pump and the feeling in the muscle, because you're more focused on moving the weight. When you're not worried about the weight, and especially if you're using half the volume, you can apply more energy per set too, because you're not holding back. You're not mentally like, well, I got 5 more exercises and 4 sets, 20 more sets to get through. You're not really pacing yourself because you don't need as much energy reserve. So you're able to apply more of that. That actually makes sense too. Kalyan, my humble opinion, I don't think endurance is an outlier when it comes to genetics. No, he did have awesome genetics, Kalyan. I mean, this guy started training seriously, and then I think within 3 years, he was representing England at the World Games, which was a pro qualifier. So he was a genetic freak. I don't know why people like to say Dorian didn't have great genetics. Video on YouTube called 1982. Oh, yeah. Oh, shit. Now I have to look at that. 1982. Yeah, I was at that. I remember that. Mike Glass put that on. I don't even remember what they gave. I think it was because I was working on the TV show, American Muscle, and I think I was getting an award on their behalf. I don't think it was 1992. I was 22 or 23 years old, so I don't think I was getting a Lifetime Achievement Award. But yeah, I remember what I wore because I only had this stupid green suit with a tie and suspenders. Yeah, I remember it very well because there was a lot of legends there, like Vince Aranda was there. Some old time actors were there. It was a lot of the greats from the 50s and 60s and 70s were in attendance. I was I think I was the youngest person in that room. It was a hotel ballroom. Your mind plays a huge role in what people believe. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, the mind is where the mind goes, the body follows. Absolutely. I mean, when I say bodybuilding is just as much mental as it is physical, I've known people. So if genetics are all the same, it's the people who have the stronger work ethic and drive that are going to excel. The people who are lazy, they're not motivated. I've seen people with awesome genetics that never went far in the sport. Some of them never even got past the local level because they just didn't want to put out the effort. When it was easy and fun, they were down with it. But when now I got to work hard and I got to go 0 carbs and I got to do cardio, I got to eat 6 times a day every day. No. Yeah, I mean it's more than just the genetics. The deck you can buy here at Columbia Pharmacy is 50 milligrams. Yeah, that's for animals. I'm not saying it's the same chemical. It's still Deca, but that's human Deca, stuff that's produced for human use. It's never produced in that low of a concentration. It's just too much oil for most people to inject. Yeah. The veterinary stuff. I mean, I was getting it back in the day because it was a lot of times that's all I could get. You know, if I wanted equipoise, I had to get this crappy Ganabol. I don't know, I think it was from Brazil, Colombia, Brazil, Ganabol, and it was 50 mil. Everything was like 50 milligrams per milliliter. Test, I didn't have to. They didn't make tests for animals, so I always got that in the right concentration. But all the equipoise and the Deca, a few times I remember getting these big jugs, 50 ml jugs, ridiculous, with a little sticker with a picture of like a goat and a cow and a horse. It's ridiculous. Toxin vitamin stuff 99. Pro hormones. I remember when the first one came out. What was the very first one called? Anadrine, or what the fuck was it called? It was one that was like Mark McGuire was supposed to know. When he was actually on steroids. Androstenedione. Yeah, and I tried them. I didn't really get much results from them. So I had one bottle that some guy gave me. I don't even feel it was the guy that had the American Muscle Clothing Company. He tried to have supplements for a little while, and I don't think he did that for very long. But he gave me a bottle of the androstenedione, and I took it, and I don't remember any results. I was still natty at the time, so it should have worked. Test GH, so effing expensive pharmacy here. Yeah. Oh, underground is usually way cheaper. It's like marijuana, cannabis is legal in most of the states in the U.S. now, but if you go to a dispensary and buy it legally, you're paying on average, I'm thinking, because I know people, I used to buy weed from dealers before this. So it's about twice, you're paying twice as much to buy it legally at a dispensary. So steroids are pretty similar. If you go to a pharmacy versus underground, you're paying a lot more at the pharmacy. Red Star. Yeah, Red Star of China. That's some good stuff. They had a trend called Humatren. They were supposedly the first trenbolone specifically produced for humans, which I guess is true because parabolin from France wasn't, I think chemically it was the same as trenbolone, I think. So I don't know. Dan did experiments and others, absolutely. Gotta go. Yep, it's late. Go to bed. Back in 93, I had 2 different cops who came in for testosterone injections. Yeah. Yeah, you gotta be careful with the cops. Alberto Montejo with this comment, I mean, stupid or ahead of the game is 75% blocked, and I'm gonna get a stent placed by sports medicine. Oh, you're going to get a stent placed? I mean, if your heart function is not there anymore, you're going to need a stent. All right, guys, I'm going to take off. We've been going for almost an hour and a half. Appreciate you watching, as always. I'm working on some more interviews, but if you haven't watched one with Nathan DeAsha that I posted yesterday, please check that out. Appreciate y'all watching. Stay safe. Love you guys. Talk to you later. Peace.